Hello, everybody. My name is RykuFit, and this is the first episode of the RykuPOD. I'm joined with Micah. Is it Micah?
Yeah, Micah.
Micah Kunkle. Nice to meet you, brother.
Good to meet you too, man.
All right, nice. First of all, I want to ask you how have you been?
Good, good. Yeah. Jubilee video dropped, so that's been fun to see the response from that. And
Yeah,
yeah, I've
yeah,
had several dropped before, which has been cool. Cool to see the response.
yeah,
Cool to
yeah.
see people reaching out. Even people from the other side of the aisle reaching out and saying they were impressed with how I did, which was cool. It's cool to see.
Oh, that's great. Well, I mean, if anybody's not
Yeah.
familiar with you, how would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Micah Kunkle. I've been on several Jubilee videos, which if you recognize me, that's probably where you recognize me from either those videos or the clips you've seen on TikTok. So yeah, I'm a conservative. I've kind of I've done debate before. I've did 4 years of speech and debate in high school, and then the Jubilee opportunity popped up and I took it. And so yeah, now I'm doing debates, doing different things like that, political commentary. I'm also a devout Christian, and so that's an important part in my life and in my work and what I speak on.
Well, that's beautiful, man. I definitely have a lot of questions lined
Yeah.
up for you about everything you mentioned. Very simply, what led you to participate in the Jubilee videos?
Yeah, so I've been watching Jubilee for several years now, and I've always wanted to be a part of it. Part of it is I love discussion, I love debate. As I said, I did it for 4 years in high school. But the other part of it too was I saw people go on and just really not do a good job. And part of me was like, oh man, like I wish I could go in there and try to do a better job than they did. And so I signed up for their casting emails. And I actually was casted in one where I asked an Antifa member questions. So it wasn't a debate, it was just me asking him questions. Um, and so that was my first one. That was kind of my foot in the door. And then after that, different casting directors would reach out to me and say, hey, are you interested in this one? And then the one with Dean came up, the surrounded one. And it was a new series, and it was kind of right in my wheelhouse, a conservative versus liberal. So I signed up for it, did an interview, got casted, and then yeah, then the rest is kind of history. After that, they kept having me back on, or I kept applying for it, and they kept casting me. So
Well, definitely. I mean, when I was watching those videos, it's a new series, a 20v1.
yeah.
I mean, I've been familiar with Jubilee in the past. They had done a lot of debate-like videos, but 20v1 was something very unique and new. And I
Hmm.
noticed, and I'm sure other people have noticed, you were in a lot of them. And I'm sure it's not
Yeah.
easy to be a part of that. I'm sure there was hundreds of people who had tried to get casted for it. So, but I just
Yeah.
want to get into some deeper thoughts into that. There is a lot of talk that Jubilee overall the experience is great. However, there's people who have been in Jubilee videos who have claimed that Jubilee might not be as neutral as they claim to be when it comes to hosting debates and showing two sides, but they might show some biases towards one side. From your opinion, as unbiasedly and as objectively as possible, do you believe that Jubilee edits their videos in ways that might be left-leaning, right-leaning, or if they're doing a debate of something completely different, like Christian versus atheist? Do you think there's any biases there in how they present their media and how they edit it?
Yeah, so I try to operate off of evidence, right? And so I want to believe things that we have good reasons and evidence to believe. And so it's hard to prove, like, with a lot of confidence that they, not just that they have a bias, but that bias actually seeps into their videos. So the first part of that is whether or not they have a bias. And they for sure have a bias. That's like no doubt in my mind. They are a left. They have left-leaning biases. How do I know this? One, just the application that you fill out for their videos, it asks you your pronouns, it asks you your sexuality, it says at the very end that they try to be inclusive and what they're missing, right? Those are, while not definitively left leaning, it indicates that they're more left leaning. All the emails that you'll ever get from any Jubilee employee, they have their pronouns in their email, right? So that's a pretty good sign. Additionally, if you follow some of these people that work for Jubilee on social media, they're not very explicit about their political beliefs, but you can see by their lifestyle and just some of the things they post that they probably have a left leaning here. So Jubilee definitely has a left leaning. Just because they're putting on people like Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk does not mean they're right leaning at all. That doesn't mean that does not track. But the way they operate within their own business indicates that to me. And then additionally, they live in LA. I mean, they're based in LA. So, I mean, that's as liberal as you can get. And most of the conservatives, I've come to find out, most of the conservatives live outside of LA. They're either San Diego or Orange County, or not main LA, but like a little bit outside, a little more inland. So I think that just kind of goes to show that they're definitely left leaning. Now, whether this comes out in their videos, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to tell whether that does. I hadn't seen major edits, and maybe I just missed these, but I hadn't seen major edits until my video with Sam Cedar, or my conversation with Sam Cedar, where they cut, and you can see this on the timer. So I'm not really revealing anything. You can't go figure out yourself.
They're not trying to hide it. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, you can look at the timer and see it says 9 minutes 30 seconds, and then when I stop talking, it says 1 minute 50 seconds. So and you look at the timestamps, only 2 minutes has passed. So why they did that, I don't know. I would have to talk to the editors or something like that. But I was a little bummed when that came out.
Yeah, I appreciate that response, and we'll get into this more in future of this interview, but I actually applied for the Jubilee video, and they have an upcoming video, 20v1 with the crypto youth versus a crypto expert. Now, in my experience, you can tell me if anything's different with you, is we have no idea, well, I have no idea who this crypto expert is. When I applied, they emailed me back, we had to do an interview, and I thought that they would fly you out. I actually thought that it was free to go, but no, you have to fly there. And I was like, that makes sense, but it's money, especially if you don't live near LA. So when I contacted a lot of Jubilee previous casting members, they were like, I paid thousands of dollars to go, and I didn't even get to speak. And they're like, honestly, the way they did the 20v1 was super malicious, maybe a little bit dangerous. So I think now they actually don't do that, is what I've been hearing. They don't actually make people go to the middle anymore. They choose it beforehand, right? And then they fake act it. Is that right? Is that true?
Yeah, that's accurate, and it makes a little sense because if anyone gets injured doing that, they could possibly be held liable. And people have been complaining about that in the comments too. There's been a lot of critique on that. Personally, I think that removes sort of some of the genuineness from the video. And I mean, if you look at the Dean video, and that was actually the first one that's been done. Even though the Charlie Kirk one was released first, we actually filmed ours before Charlie Kirk. Too, so that was actually the very first surrounded video ever done or filmed. And if you look at that one, we moderated ourselves pretty well, in my opinion. Like, if someone wanted to get up who hadn't talked before, everyone was kind of in agreement of like, yeah, we'll let them talk. Like
I
we'll
agree.
let them get to the chair first.
Hmm.
The liberals might have been a little bit different.
Yeah.
I can't 100% speak onto that. From the video, it seems like maybe they did need a little more moderation, but the conservatives were pretty good about that.
I agree.
And so I don't know. The need for a director to choose, I think, is not 100% needed.
I
But
agree.
they want more control,
Right.
so
They want more control. They
it
want more
makes sense.
administration. That's what I'm worried about personally because I don't know how many 18-year-olds get to be on these Jubilee videos. Because
Yeah,
like I was like when I emailed them, like they obviously when you apply for their casting, they ask for your age, your like pretty much everything background. You put in a 2-minute
yeah,
video, whatever it is, and I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to speak. So I'm still even debating on whether or not oh my like I want to go, but it's
yeah,
like I want to be able to have a chance to network. Now let me ask you this question. I
yeah.
was told that even if you don't even get even if you don't get the opportunity to speak, you can still talk to
Mhm.
these middlemen in the middle, or the girls, or the woman, whoever it is in the middle afterwards, and you can make some networking opportunities. Now, for you, your co-cast members in the Jubilee videos, have you been able to contact them, speak to them? I saw you did a debate with one of them.
Yeah, like, are you talking about like with the other people that participated or the one in the middle?
Kind of both. Like, were you able to network,
Okay.
talk to them afterwards, or was it kind of like, oh, you saw to a
Yeah.
movie set and you're out? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, you're able to talk with everyone that participates in the video. And so yeah, actually for each video I've done, I've started Instagram group chats to make sure that people can follow up with one another and network with one of each other. And so recommendation to you, if you do the video, try to grab everyone's Instagram if you can and set up a group chat and talk about the video, and then you talk about it when it releases and things like that. And when it releases too, they'll include everyone's social media, and usually it's people's Instagram, so you can set up a group chat that way too. But then as far as the person in the middle, um, yeah, before, well, at least the first two that I did, we were able to talk to them afterwards. I had long conversations with Dean afterwards, and they were actually really good. The cameras turned off, and we just kind of were able to chat more one-on-one without cameras on, and it was good. Same with Destiny. Um, Destiny was a little more like still debating, afterwards,
Really?
which was fun with a bunch of people. And then this recent one, though, and I don't know if this was a request of Sam or if this is like a new Jubilee policy, but they didn't let us speak with him outside of the middle of the actual surrounded
Wow.
video,
Really?
which I thought was interesting. Which I liked that before because you kind of get to talk to someone without the cameras rolling, and they usually
Authenticity.
are a little more
Yeah.
genuine and
Genuine. Yeah.
authentic there. And you can kind of connect with them more on a personal level. As opposed to like constantly being in a debate with them.
Yeah, I get
Um,
that.
so I like that part, but yeah, as far as like networking with the other people in the video, that's definitely a huge part of it, and is a reason why I like doing those too. I get to meet new people and smart young conservatives, and so yeah, we even have our own debates in the group chats sometimes, which is
That's
fun.
dope. But before
Yeah,
we get into, I want to tackle some conversations you've had with Dean Withers, Sam Cedar, and Destiny. Your comparisons between the three. Which ones you
yeah.
feel have the most good faith in conversation versus media attention? But before we
Hmm.
talk about that, the main conversation that I wanted to bring up was I'm doing this interview because of the fact that Jubilee is about to make a crypto video. That's never been done before on Jubilee. They've made
Yeah.
hundreds of videos with Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, but they've never really tackled the financial side of the world. And I'm sure because you follow Donald Trump's policies, that the economic policies will affect crypto. And I think crypto will be huge in the future. Obviously, I'm saying that because I'm a crypto influencer. But in
Yeah.
your opinion, do you? May I ask you? Are you into crypto? Are you personally inside that realm?
I'm not like a crypto influencer. I don't really follow a ton of crypto influencers, but yeah, I have invested in cryptocurrency before. I do think it's a smart investment. Obviously, not investment advice, but I do think it's good to have money in multiple places, and
Right.
crypto I think is one of those places for sure. And yeah, I think Donald Trump's policies are definitely going to influence that.
I was gonna
So
ask.
yeah, I totally believe in it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was gonna ask you, are you
Yeah.
familiar? He just signed an executive order with the crypto reserves. Have you heard about that? The XRP, ADA, Solana.
Yeah, I did. Which is huge
It's
news,
huge.
obviously for crypto. That definitely helps to continue solidifying it as a legitimate investment or source of currency. So,
Right.
um, yeah, that's huge news
Do
for
you
that.
do you see that? Do you see Donald Trump being a vessel for crypto in the future? And do you see that being one of the reasons why Jubilee is starting to attack it? Not attack in the way that like be against it, but attack the ideologies of it and trying to make it more mainstream. Because ultimately
Mm,
speaking, crypto is actually not as big as people think it is, in my opinion. I think that crypto is like in its very early stages right now because this is the first
yeah,
ever executive order ever that had anything to do with crypto. So, in
yeah.
your opinion, do you think that Donald Trump was one reason when he signed that executive order or when he talks about crypto is why Jubilee started to make it a more possibly incorporation inside their media?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know when they started to cast for that video, so obviously that would tell you whether it was based off the executive order or not. Um, I think they have done some finance stuff before. Nothing on crypto, though. You're correct on that. And I think really Jubilee is a company. Well, one, if first and foremost, it is a company, so they have to make money, and part of them making money is like following trends and capitalizing on trends because that's what gets views, right? So like during the election, they were pumping politic
Right.
videos out. Um, and so that's part of the reason why the Charlie Kirk one went so big and the Dean one went so big because people were thinking about the election and it was
Right.
huge. So they were pumping those videos out, and that's because it was trending. I think probably one reason they're getting involved with kind of a crypto conversation is because that it's trending and it's on the up, and so they want to capitalize on some of that attention. Because that's how they make money. They make
Yeah.
money with views on YouTube,
That's a
and
great
so
point. I mean, that makes sense, obviously, but I didn't really consider the fact
yeah,
that maybe they're tackling the popular trends versus things that are necessary. But it is necessary. Don't get me wrong. But trends ultimately get the money.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
before we talk about the questions I want to ask you, I don't know if this is confidential or not, but the people featured in the 20v1, you guys get compensated? You guys don't get compensated for this because these guys make thousands of dollars off of
Yeah.
YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, probably all these websites. And do you guys get any compensation for being a part of that?
Yeah, that's it's a good question. So once you go to a video, you do realize there's a bunch of expenses they have, right? So like the cameras, right?
Right.
And being a videographer, like I totally understand these expenses. You have a camera, then you have camera operators, right? There's probably 5 or 6 different cameras and cameramen that are filming a surrounded video. So you have all these cameramen that you have to pay. You have a photographer that is getting photos and for the thumbnail and things like that. You have an audio guy that's making sure the audio is all good. Then you also have a director. You have someone that's coordinating between the cast and the crew and all that. So you do have a lot of hands, and then you have editors you have to pay. So it's definitely a production, and so I understand that. And then they have to make money as a company, right? You've got to have profit, and so I understand all that. You do get a tiny compensation. It's not much. Like really, for a lot of people, it covers gas, and that's about it. And so I drive a Tesla, so it covers charging and like lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
But that's basically it. I think your main compensation with these videos is like the publicity, right?
Right.
Like no one knew who I was before, and now I've gotten recognized a few times in public. So it's like, that's kind of your payment. I've gained a lot of followers on TikTok since then.
And attention is pretty much the new currency in a way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, no,
that's how I look at it.
100%. Yeah,
So
100%.
I just want to ask a question about all your surrounded videos. So
Yeah.
you've debated Dean Withers, Destiny, and Sam Cedar. Now,
Yeah.
prior to these debates, were you a fan of any of these three? Not in the fan in the sense that you agree with their policy or their views, but a fan as in, oh, I can respect that they are preaching for what they believe in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So with Dean, I was actually probably one of the only ones familiar with Dean that was in the video. No one else had really heard of him. And he hadn't really blown up. I know now he has like millions of followers over different platforms.
Right.
But that was all because of the Jubilee video. He had a decent following, but it wasn't as big as it is now. So I haven't been a big TikTok person, to be honest. But when I have, I've seen Dean and Parker's live streams before. And so I was the only one like somewhat familiar with Dean, but I wasn't familiar enough with him to like have a real opinion on him before. With Destiny, definitely familiar with Destiny. Yeah, not a ton of respect for Destiny, to be completely honest. I think he's a good speaker. He has good rhetorical points. I don't think he has really good logical points, and he's very what's a good way to put it? He's very very unhappy, I would say, as a person. And I think his lifestyle choices have led that out. And when it comes to politics, I think he has a very short fuse a lot of the time. And yeah, so not a lot of respect for him there. He basically thinks that anyone that disagrees with him is just an idiot. And so I don't really respect that a ton.
He's pretty obnoxious. He's pretty obnoxious. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he very much is. And like in my video with it, like I asked him a simple question of like what the law is, and then he freaked out and he compared me to a Pokemon. It's like, all right, dude, like that's like, you can say that it's a stupid point, whatever, but like to get as emotional as you did and then like compare me to a Pokemon, it's like,
that's wild.
You're just getting emotional, and that's not productive for political discourse. But with Sam, very calm. I actually do respect the way he debates people. I think he was very calm. It was refreshing talking with him. Yeah, I wasn't too familiar with Sam either. I'd seen a few of his videos here and there. I'd seen Majority Report, but not super familiar. I hadn't watched a ton of his things before. So again, just really not enough information.
I would say, to relate to what you're saying here, Dean Withers, before he blew up, I used to watch his content a lot because I used to be very, very into religion and Christianity, and I know you know this. Prior to his Jubilee experience, he was mainly a religious debater. He was not political as charged as he is now. He would make him and Parker specifically. Him and Parker would always do streams saying, "Prove to me God is real." And then what people don't realize is that Dean and Parker, and you can tell me what your thoughts about this too, is I remember watching their streams on TikTok specifically. They in my opinion, they're good speakers. They know what they're talking about, and they are they don't speak on things they don't believe they're not educated in, which I do respect. However, the way that they approach topics seems very, I don't know if rage baity is the word, but they're very cocky at heart, is what I got the impression of.
Yeah.
Especially Parker. But how I look at it is, when I used to watch these streams when they would debate Christianity, I would always, like, whenever they would speak to people, it was so... It didn't feel like a debate. It just felt like you're yelling at each other, even though it is informational. Like, I don't know if you watched their debate. Dean debated this one Christian TikToker. Are you familiar with this debate? It was pretty popular. Shoot, I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
I think so.
But the point is that I think that because of his Jubilee experience and the video, he still talks about Christianity. Like, but it's so much lower than it is now. He has become a whole political activist, and he used to be 100%. He used to be so charged on just proving the fact that Christianity specifically. I don't remember him like majorly tackling Islam as much, but now he's super like just talking about politics. Now, why do you think that's the case? And do you kind of resonate with what I'm saying about the religion?
Yeah, definitely resonate there with you. Yeah, I think part of it too is like the same thing I talked about with Jubilee, following trends. You know, I think Parker and Dean started getting involved in politics because the election was coming up, right? And they were passionate about that. And, you know, that kind of made their live streams a little more political. But you're right, like before the blow up, I definitely saw Dean and Parker, but it was more religious in nature. And I think part of that is too, like, I think they both grew up Christian and conservative. That's from what they've said, I've gathered. And so I think part of it is they want to like disprove that and, you know, rebel in that way. And so, yeah, I think that was part of it. But then, you know, the politics stuff is getting more traction. And so they're kind of following, you know, what's getting them more traction, which makes sense.
Makes sense.
But yeah, as far as like, you know, whether like they're fair debaters, I would say this: Parker strikes me as very uncharitable. I think he went into the Charlie Kirk video wanting clicks, not wanting a conversation. I don't think he really actually values real debate. I think he values clips and gotcha moments and things like that. I would say Dean is kind of on the fence because interacting with Dean when cameras were turned off, I could see that, like, if we were to just sit down and grab lunch or coffee and talk politics, he'd be a lot more open-minded to things and would push back in fair ways. Whereas now I've seen him in interviews and debates where it's just not that at all. Part of it is, I think, Parker's influence on Dean too. And so I think when Charlie Kirk said on the George Janko podcast that he would debate Dean again because he thinks he's actually more open-minded, I think that's 100% true. And Parker does not strike me like that at all. But unfortunately, I think Dean, for the sake of clicks and because of Parker's influence, has kind of started shifting towards that, which is unfortunate to see. But unfortunately, it's what our culture encourages. It encourages being that way, to get clicks and stuff.
And I just want to say one thing is, definitely in the past 4 or 5 months, since honestly Jubilee surrounded videos, the traditional youth has definitely been more aware of the politics. I feel like prior to that, people would honestly grow up saying like, I don't care who's president. Now it's like you say one opinion about you agreeing with one side, then you're bombarded. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, so I was on a road with my friends, and out of nowhere they're like, hey, Ryku, like, would you support, do you support abortion? And I'm like, I'm like, it's not as cut and dry as like yes or no. Like it's really not as cut and dry as that. Like I have to say my opinion and then why I believe so. But so many people will hear these influential political influencers and just copy and paste what they're saying as if they understand it. Now, what people don't understand is you can look at a portrait and copy that portrait. You will never be able to replicate that portrait unless you knew why it was made that way. So I use that with politics too. People will listen to Dean Withers, Charlie Kirk, Sam Cedar, Destiny, and then they will just immediately agree with it because they don't really hear the opposing side to it. And then I'm like, that's why I feel like the generation is that now. It's like people are so easily influenced and they will start attacking each other for having a view. And I don't understand why we shame people for certain views when I feel, ultimately speaking, I think everybody overall on both parties, I think we need to become more civil. Like we need to become a lot more civil. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. No, 100%. And I don't know if you saw the clip because Jubilee did a middle ground where it was 30 Republicans versus 30 Democrats.
I did.
And so I had a debate on abortion on that one, but then they released a part 2 and where we had basically, it was like a 15 or 30-minute conversation where both sides would go back and forth. And Parker got up and asked what I think is just a really silly, ridiculous question about E. Jean Carroll. And she claimed that Donald Trump, I don't know actually what I'm allowed to say. Is this just on YouTube or is this TikTok too?
I mean, if there's certain clips you don't want me posting on TikTok, I won't be posting it. But it is gonna be on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, this is okay. I'll use the appropriate term. Graped. That's what she claims. And basically, he said, "Would you vote for someone who's been civilly, held civilly liable for that?" And some of the Republicans raised their hands. And anyways, he tried to make this stupid gotcha moment. So then I got up after that. And because I was honestly kind of fed up with the conversation as a whole. Because it was a lot of just like, no, you're a bad person. No, you're a bad person. Blah. And like going back and forth. And I'm just like, this is so dumb. Like, no one wants to hear this. We want to hear an exchange of ideas. And so I got up. And I think it is important to give the benefit of the doubt to the other side of thinking, okay, are they believing this because they're malicious and because they have evil intentions with like believing and saying these things? Or are they legitimately convinced of this and they're just speaking their opinion? And I think just if everyone could go into political conversations giving that person the benefit of the doubt, we'd have a lot more civil conversations. Because Parker's question is to try to frame people like bad people, that they are intentionally voting for someone that they think committed this awful crime.
I guess,
as opposed to thinking, okay, I see the evidence that he committed this crime. Maybe they don't see the evidence, or they see other evidence that I'm unaware of. Okay, I'm not going to say they're, purposefully voting for someone who did this. Now, maybe there are some Republicans that do believe he raped someone and still vote him anyways. But you can't assume that. It's hard to read people's intentions. You can't read their thoughts or their heart. And so, that's why I think you've got to assume the best of intentions with people.
I completely agree. And I think it's very important for us to spread awareness of having proper civil conversation no matter what you believe.
Yeah.
Because people's beliefs don't always stem from a place of malicious or hatred, or people want to support somebody they know is bad. Sometimes people just have certain aspects of they believe something because of evidence or because they grew up a certain way, and it's important for all of us to talk to each other like we're human, not like a Republican or Democrat. I want to talk to you as a person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you tell me you're a Republican or a Democrat, I'm not gonna treat you any differently. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, because there's bad there's intrinsically at heart bad Democrats and Republicans and non-party associates, and it's not that you're a Democrat Republican, it's that you're you. It has nothing to do with the political view. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. That's a good way to say it.
This is some in topic, but some side opinions I want to hear what you say. Who would be your top 3 next choices for the president of the United States after Trump?
Oh, nice. Number 1 is Ron DeSantis, for sure. I love DeSantis. I think he has a great track record with Florida. If you look at how he's governed Florida, that's exactly what I want in a president. I honestly think, so I'm wearing a MAGA hat, but I have my criticisms of Trump, for sure. Overall, I support him, but I have my criticism of him, and I think sometimes the way he talks to people is inappropriate. I think Ron DeSantis is the perfect blend of being firm in your beliefs while also still maintaining a level of respect for people. I think he's basically everything I want Trump to be, in all honesty. And so I love Ron DeSantis. I think the next person I would say is JD Vance. I wasn't super stoked on that pick when it first came out. Since then, I've come to love JD Vance. He's a great debater. He's got really great ideas. He's also really solid in his theology and his philosophy, which I really appreciate, as well as someone who's very interested in those topics. And so I'd love JD Vance. And obviously, he shares a lot of the same political beliefs and policies as Trump and DeSantis. And then third, I'd probably say like Marco Rubio. I like Marco Rubio. I think he's a really good guy. Again, a lot of similar policies. I think he's going to do a great job as Secretary of State. He's already done a great job as Secretary of State, but these next 4 years, I think he's going to do a really good job.
One thing I personally hope for in the next president is, regardless of the Republican or Democrat, is the way that they represent the country. Now, regardless if you were a Democrat or Republican, there's no hiding the fact that Joe Biden, the way he was representing the country, just based off his energy alone, was super embarrassing for America, no matter if you were Republican or Democrat. I think we can all agree on that. Even Democrats would say he's not fit to be president. Doesn't matter. I don't care if he's the best politician. He's got to go. What I would compare it to is, no matter if you supported him or not, Barack Obama had a great way of presenting himself, in my opinion. He really, if you saw his victory speeches, he was super respectful, and everybody, when they talk about how the way maybe Trump presents his views, the way he speaks, is, they might agree with his policy, but ultimately speaking, there is disagreements on the way he conveys himself. And I've always loved how previous to, I'd say, 2010, maybe around there, politicians were a lot more respectful and civil. Now it's like, if you watch the Joe Biden and Trump debate, or Hillary Clinton and Trump, they're like saying some mean things, and that's just not how we should move as a country.
100%, totally agree with that. You've got to, disagree with Obama. I think he did a lot of harm to the country, but dude was a good arbiter. Like, he was able to express his ideas very well. Really good speaker. So I can definitely respect that in him. I think what was really encouraging in this election is seeing the Tim Walz and JD Vance debate, because I think that debate it was a blast from the past of what debates actually were.
Agreed.
It was respectful. It was good. There was good discussion on both sides. Personally, I think JD creamed Tim Walz, like, on a debate level. But, like, Tim Walz, it was great. Like, they both expressed their ideas. They both were going back and forth in a very respectful and civil manner, but still firm. And I thought that was like, yes, if we could have more of that, if that could be our presidential debates, we'd be looking a lot better as a country.
I completely agree. And what I loved about that debate was it was a breath of fresh air. And not only that, I love how there was some agreement and middle ground with that. There were so many times where both parties like, you know what? Fuck it, like, we can actually see eye to eye here. But you are not seeing that with the Trump and Biden debate. Like, it's crazy how people are so like what's that word? Were prideful about their viewpoints, that they refuse to say I agree with you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but
100%.
the media will switch everything that Trump will say, Biden will say, and be like, wait, then is Trump a Democrat now? Like, I understand, but at the same time, it's like, I love the civil, and I think that people don't want to get into politics not because of the views, but because of the energy. That's what I believe. I think a lot of people just do not like the energy and watching these debates. Like what does the country come into? They won't even hear the viewpoints. They won't even hear the policy. They just hear the energy, and they're like, what is America? You know what I'm saying?
100%. And I think humility is needed to bring civility back, because you've got to have in these conversations the humility to say, I don't know what that is, or I've never heard that point before, or you know what, I actually agree with you on that point. Like, I think a problem with the, quote unquote, like MAGA crowd is that they defend Trump in everything. And it doesn't matter what he does, they like praise and support him for everything. And I'm just not there. I can't intellectually justify that. And so I'll be honest, Trump is not 100% the best thing ever. He has his flaws, and he's done things that I've totally disagreed with.
So has everybody else.
We can admit that. Exactly. If we can admit that in conversations, we'd be in a better place. I think if we can admit, like, when we don't know something, so like with Dean, for example, in my abortion debate with him, I had never heard of this IVF or not IVF. Oh my gosh, what's the?
Are you talking about the IUD?
IUD. There we go. I knew it started with an I. I had never heard of this IUD argument, and I wasn't even really familiar with IUDs either. And so I just asked him, okay, what is that? And it's okay. You don't have to know everything. No one knows everything, right? There's always going to be, even if you've studied abortion extensively, there's probably something you didn't know about abortion. There just is. And having the humility to say, I don't know that, but teach me and let me think through it. That's going to do a lot for conversation. Not only for, like, I think the audience, but the person you're talking to. If a person is like, oh, hey, they're admitting they don't know something, I can maybe be a little more calm and respectful to them, Right. I think that can go a long way for conversations.
No, I completely agree, and I just want to tackle some economic policies with you, because I know you're not into crypto like I am. I'm huge on crypto, but I would love to talk about the economy, because the economy is, crypto falls under the economy, obviously, and totally. Especially with the crypto reserve and the Bitcoin reserve, we're not gonna see crypto slow down anytime soon, and we can expect it to be honestly a huge thing when it comes to Donald Trump's entire presidency for the next 4 years. I truly believe that. But I just want to ask some questions about it, because the economy overall in America will affect crypto, and obviously because I follow crypto, I follow that, so I want to see your opinions on it, and maybe we could have our own little conversation about it, because I have my own views about the economy. And again, when I do like these conversations, I'm not left leaning, right leaning. I'm just trying to stay neutral most of the time. I have my biases towards both sides, but I'm not firmly there for either side. And I think everybody could be okay with saying that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think people need to stop saying, I'm a Biden supporter, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm like, okay, so what's your favorite policy? It's like, I saw this Jubilee video. Like, no, that's not what you should do. You know what I'm saying?
Form your own opinion.
Exactly. So I'm still researching. So ultimately right now, I just follow economic policies, and numbers don't lie. So let's see your opinion. 100%. So first off, let's talk about the economy when it comes to the stock market. Now, I'm sure you've heard the S&P was down 10%. Now, let's just tackle that first. So we also talk about a few things like the tariffs. I'll tell you my opinion real quick. You can tell 100%. Me if I'm missing something, if your opinion is different. I believe that the tariffs were very detrimental currently for the stock market, for the crypto market, and that's just me looking at the numbers. Now, how I view a tariff, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, is when when we get an import, we're gonna be charging, except there's gonna be a tax on that import, and I don't believe that a 50% tariff was necessary. Or but I mean, to be fair, there's other countries doing 100%. I thought if you saw that.
Yeah.
I don't see the benefit short term, but I do see how it can be used as an intimidation factor to intimidate some in trade wars, saying, "Hey, if you don't do this, we're slapping the tariff on you." That's why I see it happening. But I think the implication of it happening in general is already striking people to sell, and that alone, even if the tariff never gets placed, is going to affect the stock market. Because ultimately speaking, people are preparing for the future. They don't wait for it. That's how I look at it. So personally, I'm not fond of the tariffs. I think every time a new tariff is announced that is related not only to America, but Canada, Mexico, the stock market falls. Now, what is your opinion about that? Are you in agreement with Trump's tariff policy? Personally, I don't love how it's affecting the stock market and the crypto market. What is your view on it?
Yeah, 100%. So, okay, with Trump and tariffs, he loves talking about tariffs. He loves a word. He's said it before. He loves tariffs, okay? Now, I do not speak about tariffs in the same way Trump does. I do not love tariffs. I don't think ultimately, economically, like just by itself, it does anything for the economy. I really don't. There's a few instances you can point to in history where it has.
I agree.
But on the most part, it does not help. Now, so the question is, okay, so then why would anyone do tariffs? There's a few reasons why. One, as you said, to use them as like a negotiation tactic to get something you want. Two, I would say retaliatory, and that kind of falls under negotiation, but like a retaliatory tariff to defend your interests and to still keep you on, like, you have something negotiation wise to have. And then three, I would say to go after and punish a country that's doing immoral practices or something like that. Or doing things in general that you don't like. And then four, I would say there are specific times where you don't necessarily want to use a tariff to like protect a market because you think that's going to be better for an economy. You do it for national security reasons. So like with China, for example, they manufacture a lot of chips, right? And a lot of chips that are necessary for computers and our modern way of life. I think having a tariff on those chips to encourage companies, and this is what Trump is doing, he's actually done. I forgot the company name. It's, I totally forgot its name, but he's made a deal with them to move, manufacturing into the United States. That's really good, from Taiwan into the United States. And that's really good because national security wise, if China was to have complete monopoly over that manufacturing, that would be bad news for the United States, right? And so it's in our national security interest to keep those chips manufacturing in the United States. And so those are the reasons why I think you would use tariffs.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how Trump is going to use these tariffs. It feels like to me that he's using them for those reasons. But the way he talks is very much like, oh, I just love tariffs.
Yeah,
like
right.
They're going to replace income tax, which I think is ridiculous. Now, the question is Trump just being dumb, which sometimes he is, or is he playing 4D chess, which sometimes he does?
Yes.
And he's saying these things so that the threat of tariffs to other countries are more believable and they feel like it's more of a threat because Trump is saying he loves tariffs. I don't know.
That's a good question, man.
I think the way his administration plays out, we'll see. But like, am I okay with a short-term decrease in the stock market for like better protection of our borders, like with Canada and Mexico? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Am I in favor of long-term tariffs on Canada and Mexico? No, I really
This
hope
is
those don't
I
happen.
love the point you just brought up because I think people who don't understand the economy or don't understand people's plans for it, they don't understand why short-term tariffs are a good thing. Because ultimately speaking, you're gonna need to knock something down before you get it back up. And I think that's what Trump's
Yep.
trying to do here. Now, Trump literally said that we're gonna be hurting for a bit. If you saw that, right? He
Yeah.
admitted to it, and we can respect that, right? But let's look at the pros and cons here. So, do, do we think that the cons of the economic state of America when it comes to stocks, ETFs, crypto, going down for short term is worth it for the long term effect? Now we have to understand previous examples of this. Now,
Yeah.
in your opinion, this is how I look at it. So I'll just give you an example. So prior to the crypto reserve, which you are aware of, that he announced, let's just say that XRP was at $2.30. It mooned to $3 the day of his announcement. Then the day after his announcement, it went under the previous value before his announcement. Now,
Yeah.
let's think about this. So, in the crypto scene and the stock market scene, there has been a lot of talk of government manipulation. Now, this is how I look at it. I believe that when markets are extremely volatile like this, there's several explanations like the tariffs. But do you think there's some market manipulation, government specific manipulation in these areas? Because obviously the crypto space, there's a less market cap, meaning you can manipulate it a lot easier with the whales.
Yeah.
But in the
Oh,
in the stock market, it's not so easy, obviously. But there's definitely some play here, in my opinion. Because how is it possible for a value of a coin to be lower after a reserve announcement for it? It doesn't make much sense to me. What is your thoughts?
Yeah. That doesn't make much sense to me either. Again, I do like to operate on evidence, right? And so, is there evidence of government tampering is what I would ask. And, if there's not evidence for it, I tend to be more agnostic on it. But it's fishy for sure.
Yeah, shady.
I don't want to say it's not shady because that is for sure a little shady.
Yes.
Who knows? Maybe there is a rational, economic explanation that will make sense as time progresses. But yeah, I don't know. I don't trust the government, so I'm definitely in favor of like, hey, we should probably check what's going on here.
Yes.
I'm all for accountability. I'm all for Doge. Like, let's go
Right.
Doge. So I'm all for that. I'm all for looking into it, but I'm not for jumping to conclusions before we have good reason.
I completely agree. I personally have some things I wish were public to the average American citizen that I want to see if you agree with. So personally, I'm sure you're aware in a crypto wallet, you have a crypto address. Now, if you have that address,
Yep.
you can know exactly what transactions go on in that address. I believe
Yep.
every single government official who is a part of government agencies, politicians, their crypto wallet especially should be tracked and should be able to be seen by the public.
Yep.
Because these are already public information. It's already public. We just don't know who to we just don't know, there's not a name attached to it yet. It's just that address. There's no name attached to it. It's like a house address. You don't know who lives there. I believe that these crypto addresses by the government officials, we should be able to track full-heartedly. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we ask for transparency in these things and in what stocks they invest in, right?
Right.
We ask for transparency in those things. That should be the same with crypto. We should see what kind of transactions are happening behind the scenes. And ultimately, like, they are in positions of power. So they can't have power to influence markets. And that's why insider trading is not good. This is not a good thing. We all recognize that it's an unfair advantage, and that's why there's regulations around it. And this is where I'm very pro capitalism, very pro free market, but the free market isn't free unless it has some sort of regulations and protections in place.
I agree.
Insider trading is one of those things. And so I don't see how that principle wouldn't apply to crypto as well and crypto wallets.
However, I will say this. What's popularly known, I want to talk to you about this, and I want to get your opinion on this, is when a popular figure or a popular person tells people or even buys something themselves, they are usually a whale in the sense that they buy a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
Now, if we all knew what these people were buying, there's guaranteed millions of people to buy exactly what they buy. I'm sure you've heard of the I'm not sure if you've heard of the app called Dub. Was it called Dub? Where you can copy people's wallets for stock markets.
That's right.
So
this
is the issue that I run into, because I want to be as objective as possible. If if Donald Trump were to buy $1 million worth of HBAR, which HBAR is a cryptocurrency that's worth at 30 cents, right? Well, currently it's worth at like, I don't know, 20 cents. As soon as he buys that, that's shooting. Like, that's shooting to 30 cents. You know what I'm saying? So
100%.
That's not fair, because that's not real investment. That's copy trading because of a investor. Now we have to distinguish that. So this is the issue with copying crypto wallets, because if you copy a stock market, Donald Trump could tweet, I'm investing in the S&P 500. We can expect it to go up, but it won't be the same as crypto, because crypto's market cap is so much lower, which means one tweet, and this has happened evidently throughout all Trump's tweets, it's gonna boost so much. So that's the con of it. It's how do you make it fair? How can there be regulations to it? So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You know, it is really tough. And, you know, I definitely would be open to some sort of government regulation, and something like crypto, because of how volatile it is. You know, ultimately, I think probably in the long term, it will kind of work itself out a little bit, because I think crypto will eventually stabilize. At least that's the hope, right? If we want it to be an actual currency, it needs to it needs to stabilize. It can't be this volatile. Obviously, like countries with very volatile currencies, they crash and burn. So that's not good. So if we want them to be actual currencies, they're going to need to stabilize. I think it will eventually stabilize. And once it does that, there will be less of that. But yeah, I mean, you raise a really good question, because I mean, it's not just Trump that has that power, right? Like Elon makes one tweet about Doge and it's to the moon, right? Or like recently the Hawk Tuah girl, right?
Oh,
There's that whole controversy with that.
I
think someone like like Logan Paul and Gary V, right? With the whole crypto punks thing or whatever. Like,
Crypto Zoo.
That like, okay, that's not good.
But you raised up a great point. So you talk about Elon Musk. Now I want to tell you one thing I heard. So he recently did an interview with his name, Joe Rogan. I'm not sure if you watched that. I watched it. Let me tell you this. So you've heard of rug pulls. Are you familiar with rug pulls?
Yeah.
So this is what Elon Musk had to say about it. Now, I'm sure. Well, first off, what is your opinion about Elon Musk politically?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was very smart with Trump. I like where Trump put him. I like him as the head of Doge. Now, contrary to what maybe some people will say, Doge doesn't really actually have power to do things. They have the power to give suggestions and to look at books and figure out where waste is, but they don't actually have the power to like fire people or to do anything like that. They just have the power to give suggestions to these agencies, which is why I like Elon Musk in this position. He's really good. We know he's really good at running efficient companies that get stuff done. I mean, Tesla, wonderful company. I have a Tesla. It's great. Their company is awesome. Customer service is excellent. You have SpaceX, which is literally catching rockets in midair. Okay, like that's crazy, right?
That's crazy. Successfully
Twitter,
too.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
First
it's like
try,
the videos are insane.
Yeah.
The videos are crazy. But like Twitter, he came in, fired most of the people because they weren't needed, and X is a wonderful platform, I think. And so that's what he's good at. Am I in favor of Elon being in any sort of position of power? No, I'm not in favor of that. Like, he doesn't. I think I align way more politically with Donald Trump than I do Elon Musk, right? And I mean, I think, admittedly, like, this is one of the first times he's ever voted Republican. So, like, I don't think he should be any sort of thought leader on this stuff. But I like where he is in the Trump administration. I think it's really good. And I think Trump is really good. What I've seen in this administration is Trump is really good at getting people where they're good at, right? RFK, he's really good with the health stuff. That's where he's going to thrive. Trump put him there, right? Marco Rubio, I think he is really good on, foreign relations. That's where Trump put him. And so I think he's really good at that. And when it comes to Elon Musk, I think he's in the perfect position.
Okay, that's a very interesting point you bring up there. I have my issues with Elon Musk that I'll bring up after this. And I want to see your opinion on it. What I was going to bring up, though, was, Elon Musk, however, he's not in a position of power. I would agree with that. He is influential. And this is the thing. So we all know rug pulls. Very simply, if you do not know what a rug pull is, rug pulls are essentially when somebody creates a coin, a cryptocurrency coin, that they try to pump. Pumping just means that they get a huge community of their own to invest in that coin, and then pretty much at a short period of time or a quick immediate period of time, they liquidate the entire coin at once. Very simple explanation of it. Basically, a scam. Illegal. It should be illegal. Now, Elon Musk said on the Joe Rogan podcast that rug pulls are like gambling in the sense that it should not be illegal. Now, this is my disagreement with Elon Musk. Let me tell you this. So let me tell you what he said so you have some enlightenment on it. He essentially said that in gambling at a casino, right, you withdraw some money, and then you go gamble. Now, the difference is when you're gambling, you know exactly what you're expected in the sense that there's percentage chance for you to win, and you are aware of that, and you know what you're getting into. You're willingly choosing to get into this, and you know what you're expected of. And the difference between a cryptocurrency coin, also there's laws and regulations with gambling. Like, it's not, these casinos are not just like, give me your money. Like, there is real regulations with casino gambling. They cannot just do a 0% chance of you winning, right? But with rug pulls is you are being convinced to buy this coin. Now, people don't realize it, but a lot of the audience, you gave me an example of Talk Tua, the Talk Tua coin. She was targeting her audience to invest in the coin. 80% of them probably didn't know what crypto was. They bought an app to buy the coin, I assume. A lot of people actually did that. And Trump, when he made his coin, over 250,000 people who never heard of crypto download crypto. So it's proving to people that the audience isn't targeted towards crypto people. It's targeted towards people who are not in crypto. Because if you're a part of crypto, you know not to get in these coins, you know? So the issue is Elon Musk is claiming that the reason why it shouldn't be illegal is because even though rug pulls are shady, he literally said the government is shady. Like, it was the most very hit. Of course, you can watch it for yourself. You can see your opinion on it. I'll obviously a little bit of contrast out of it. I don't want to, say anything wrong. But he did say that he was comparing casino gambling with rug pulls, and that's why rug pulls should not be illegal, and that it's stupid. He was like, it's stupid to gamble, and it's also stupid to invest in a rug pull. However, it's different because you're not expecting the same between the both of them. Now, I'm a big advocator for crypto regulations, right? Now, connecting the points, do you believe that crypto regulations is good, or is it restricting financial freedom?
Yeah, really good question. This is like, I think it goes back to just a classic political philosophy debate of like, how much do we get involved in the market, and how much do we just kind of let the market and people live with their own personal decisions, right? And I think with conservatives, we lean towards, hey, let people live with the consequences of their actions. And liberals are more like, hey, no, let's get the government involved in this. And so it's a classic debate. There's definitely things that we can all agree on. And so when it comes to rug pulls, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting debate. I definitely am in favor of regulations, and if we want to go ahead and like agree with Elon's analogy of casinos, casinos are heavily regulated, and there's a lot of transparency with
Right.
casinos. Like
I agree.
they have to be transparent in a lot of different ways. Um, there's also a lot of, I think, public and cultural awareness of what casinos are. They are a business. They are trying to make money. So the odds are in their favor every single time.
Yes.
Like, and there are, and we know this true. Like, there are certain games that are going to give you better odds. There are certain games that are going to give the casinos odds. Never play slot machines. Okay, that is a complete waste of money. You would be much better at just doing blackjack, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But there's a lot of regulations, right? And so,
Yes.
like, if a casino is too heavily influencing a game, right, that's against the law. And so then they're regulated on that. I think probably the same should be applied to these influencer coins.
Yes.
There needs to be regulations. There especially needs to be transparency. Probably needs to be rules on like when they can pull out, when they can sell their investments. What those all look like, I'm not 100% sure. Again, I'm not like a crypto expert or anything. But I'm definitely in favor of regulating it because I do think it's not as much of a. I think in this current moment, it's less of people taking responsibility for their own actions and more of people getting scammed, right? And so if we move towards more transparency, more information, allowing people to understand what they're getting into, then I am okay with what Elon said. But we're not there yet. We're definitely not there, and people are getting manipulated, and that's wrong.
But one thing to keep in mind, to be completely fair, is that crypto and rug pulls are extremely new. They're whenever something's new, it's gonna be slower to get regulations on it. It just doesn't help that Elon Musk, who is very influential, who was connected to the most powerful person in the United States,
Right.
it doesn't help that he's saying that they shouldn't be illegal. That being said, like Elon Musk and Donald Trump have obviously disagreements, and just because he says something doesn't mean that Donald Trump would do something else. But it is something to think
Yeah.
about. So yeah,
Well,
I mean,
yeah, and on that point too, like Trump Trump called a cabinet meeting, and I don't know if you heard about this, but Marco Rubio and Elon were kind of going at it.
yes,
And Trump, I think to his credit, let them debate, let them disagree, and then in the end, he was like, "No, I side with Marco Rubio. We need to be careful with how we're going about removing things." And it was good. So I think that goes to show that like Elon Musk doesn't have the final say. It's Trump. Trump has the final say. And Trump doesn't agree with Elon 100% of the time.
right.
Which is why Elon is in the position that he's in. He's not in a position of power. He's in a position of, I think what you said correctly, influence, right? And influence doesn't mean these things are bound to happen. They're just recommendations.
Right. I mean, that's a really great point. I guess one more thing about Elon that I wanted to ask you about, hear your opinion on it. So,
Yeah.
again, we already talked about how the economy, when it comes to crypto, is super affected by tweets. But well, just in general, like if you say something, it's gonna be affected, but more volatile. How is your opinion that people are like, oh wait, but Elon Musk has his own government efficiency, but he runs a social media that is super influential, and if he decides to do so, he could literally tweet, buy Dogecoin, and it'll pump again. He can do that every day, it'll pump. So, do you think, this is my opinion, I think that there's probably some sort of contract with him and Trump saying, you cannot do this. You cannot tweet certain things. You cannot run Twitter a certain way. Because ultimately speaking, like Elon Musk has very much said continuous times that he's very for freedom of speech on X. But he is he's much friends with Trump. Do you think there's some right-leaning biases on the platform? And do you think there should be regulation on what these people should be allowed to say on this platform, especially because it's so influential?
Yeah.
One tweet could cause the entire market to pump or crash.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. I don't know if they have any contract. Again, operating off of evidence. I haven't seen evidence of that, so I don't know. As far as like as far as bias towards the right, I haven't seen that. Unless again there's evidence of that. I don't know if there's any left-leaning creators that have been banned over something unreasonable. So I'm unaware of a right-leaning bias, and especially since it again, well, Elon Musk is the head of the company, right? But as far as like day-to-day operations goes, he's not always involved in that. There's other people. He obviously has to delegate this stuff out. And so are those people of the same opinions as Elon Musk? I don't know. Are they more center? Are they more Democrat? Like, we don't know. So ultimately, I don't think we can say either way. I think what we can say is that he's made it more fair. He's made X more fair. He's uncovered documents that were clear evidence that there was a bias against the right on X before he took over. So I think those things we can safely say are true because the evidence points to that. I don't see any evidence that there's an influence towards right-wing creators. As far as like whether there should be regulations on what people say, I don't know. It is really tough because you want to preserve the fairness of the free market, but the liberty of individuals. And it's just a hard balancing act that we have to think carefully through because
one wrong move could fuck up the entire system.
Yeah, 100%. If you lean towards, individual liberty, right, it could lead to it not being fair. And that's not good. Free markets don't do well when it's not fair. If you lean towards it being fair, which involves regulations,
right,
it could be over-regulated, and that's not good for the economy either. And so we have to balance those two things out. And so I don't know. It's an interesting debate. I haven't done a ton of thinking on like whether we should restrict Elon's commentary on it. Ultimately, I would probably lean towards not regulating speech because I think that's a dangerous, slippery slope. I would rather advocate for, hey, like, it's Elon Musk, right? Like, let's not make decisions based off of what Elon Musk says. Like, let's make decisions based off of evidence.
Yes.
Are these coins, like, good? Like, is there evidence to support that they're a good investment? Mm-hmm. I think there's good evidence to support that Bitcoin is a good investment or Ethereum is a good investment. I don't think there's good evidence to support that, like, Dogecoin is going to be
there's no utility as
crazy.
Much. Utilities will matter.
Right.
But I have a point I want to bring up too that I feel that is not mentioned.
Yeah.
So we already talked about how his name literally just got on my head. He runs the health, pretty much like the health side of the economy right now.
Oh, RFK.
RFK, yeah, sorry. I don't know why that went. RFK, so he answered a question about whether or not healthcare should be free in America, should be a human right. I don't know if you saw that. A
human right, yeah.
So he answered the question saying it's not the same as a traditional human right because somebody who smokes for 20 years should not be able to have the same amount of healthcare as somebody who maybe inherited a disease that they should have every right to get healthcare for because they had no choice. Now, that is restriction on a certain department. Same as hate speech. We should obviously be able to say what we want to say, but there's consequences because in the same way it might affect a certain amount of people if you chose to do something. Now, why can't we use the same logic where if Trump were to tweet, let's invest in XRP like he pretty much did, you invested at $3, it goes down to $2, it literally went under $2 again. then that affected you because you were told to
Yeah.
invest in something, and then it strikes down due to manipulation, due to people wanting to sell for profits. Like, that's another point. It's like, how it is free speech, but this is making people lose money by telling a group of people with your influence to invest in something, and it instantly dips. Now, that's why I would say there's a difference and there's some similarities, because we shouldn't give free healthcare. I would agree with that, to people who choose to kill their health, right? But we should also not just allow people to, with this much influence, to have people buy something and then they have no sort of regulation on what they can and cannot say. Because what if Trump were to tweet, "Everybody go smoke cigarettes"? Now, he can't say that, but let's say the death rate of cigarette users increased dramatically. Who do we blame then?
Yeah, it's a good point. I would say too, though, there is a level of personal responsibility that people need to take. And so, with the rug pulls, I think that's different, because that's an actual action people are taking. They're actively pulling stuff from the market that's going to cause it to crash, and that was their intention the whole time. Whereas if you restrict speech, the problem with that is that you're now assuming intentions. So, like, you could assume, instead of Elon Musk expressing his opinion that he thinks Dogecoin is actually has some utility, you're now reading into his intention that, oh, he's saying this to pump up Dogecoin to make money. And I don't think we should, especially the government, should be in the business of, figuring out intentions when it comes to an opinion on stocks or on policies or something like that. So that's why I would probably be against restricting speech, because you've got to assume some intentions when you do that. And two, you're also kind of taking away a little bit of personal responsibility from people. I mean, I think almost everybody that talks about investments always talks about, do your research, don't just gamble with your money.
Right.
Like, don't just invest randomly. Like, do your research, make sure these are decisions that are based in reality and utility, as you said, and not just like a whim or a meme. So I think, listen, if people, in the same way, like, I wouldn't be in favor of restricting Donald Trump from saying everyone should smoke cigarettes. That's his opinion, and if people want to listen to that, that's on them. For smoking cigarettes, that's not 100% on Trump. Like, people can think through these issues themselves. They can do the research themselves, especially in the age that we live in now with the internet, and you have access to people's opinions right away, and you can get a differing opinion if you actually do your research.
That's a very good point, and I think that enlightened me a little bit on how I viewed it. This is a good question I wanted to ask you. What do you think is the best policy that Kamala Harris proposed, and what do you think is the best policy that Donald Trump proposed during the campaign?
I liked Kamala Harris' proposal when it came to child credit and no taxes on tips. I think those are great proposals. I think those are good and smart proposals, and they'll actually help the economy. I think one of the roles of government is to encourage good behavior. And, as America, we kind of need to wake up to the, fertility crisis that we're somewhat in, and the fact that we're not reproducing on the levels that we should. And so the government having more child tax credit to encourage married couples to have kids, absolutely, that's a great thing to do. Because we don't survive as a society without kids. Right. We don't. Society literally will disappear. So we need that in place. As far as Trump's proposals, loved a lot of Trump's proposals, which is why I voted for him. Obviously, why I'm wearing the MAGA hat. Favorite one of his is tough. I've liked a lot of the stuff he's done on the border. Just him declaring an national emergency, getting more troops down there. We've already seen a major reduction. And like the deportations, we've already seen a major reduction in illegal immigration. The rates they're at are lower than they've ever been. So that's a really good thing. I think I liked a good amount of his pardons too. Pardoning the abortion is something that's like near and dear to my heart as far as like the issue goes. Pardoning the pro-life activists that were exposing Planned Parenthood and different organizations like that, I thought was really good. I was really happy when I heard that news.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you for the answer. And I want to see the opposite now. What is the worst for both sides so we can keep it fair?
Yeah, good. So for Kamala, man, it's tough. There were a lot of bad policies I think Kamala had. I think let's see. Gosh, what's the worst one? Well, okay, one of my least favorite ones was her definitely her transgender policies and what she advocated for as far as like bathrooms and sports. I think those were not good policies. Probably going back to abortion, she definitely wanted to, if she got into power, wanted to try to overturn the Dobbs decision and somehow have the federal government install that as a right. I think that would have been really bad for the country. So, and for the unborn. So those, and then also like she did mention different policies economically as far as like literally controlling prices, like grocery store prices. I don't think that's good. That's not free market capitalism at all. So those would probably be the three that I really don't like about her policies. Trump's, I don't like his policy on IVF. Now that's probably a little controversial, but if you actually look into IVF and what it is, most of the embryos created are killed. They're thrown out. And additionally, IVF, the way it plays out is you have homosexual couples doing this, which I don't think is appropriate or part of the natural order. You have couples choosing embryos based off of specific characteristics, like gender or eye color. That's not good. No one should ever be in a position where they can choose exactly what their child looks like and discard their other children that don't look that way. So this is how IVF plays out in reality. And Trump is now encouraging and trying to fund these programs, to my knowledge, without any sort of restrictions on these things. So I think that's not a good Trump policy. And we've obviously talked about tariffs. I don't know what direction he's going to go in yet, but if his direction is long-term tariffs, I don't think that's good. Long-term tariffs as far as like Canada and Mexico goes. As far as China goes, I think there's actually a lot of agreement between Democrats and Republicans on this. Biden actually increased tariffs on China when he was in presidency, so I don't think there's a major disagreement. But for everyone else, that would be a really bad policy. That would help. That would be really bad for the economy and for inflation.
Well, I think it's important for us to talk about the pros and cons. I think people need to do that more often.
Yeah,
It's very rare to see a
100%.
left-leaning or right-leaning side talk about the negatives between the other side. You will never
Mhm.
see a Charlie Kirk video. Like, it's very rare to see a Charlie Kirk video saying one good thing about Biden. Like, I don't think I've ever seen
Yeah,
one. That being said,
yeah.
I wanted to ask you this. So, if you were to become president, what are 3 executive orders you would try to pass to Congress?
Ooh. Oh man, that's good. If I was president, I would do everything in my power to ban abortion.
Mhm.
Everything in my power. I am 100% convinced that the unborn are human and that they have a right to life. And so I would do everything I can to save as many lives as possible when it comes to that. Um, Secondly, I mean, I agree with a lot of Trump's executive orders. So, like, the thing with executive orders that they can just be overturned by the next
Right.
president, right? And so, let's assume Trump goes out of office, Democrat overturns some of his executive orders, and then I come back in. I'd probably reinstate definitely the one about women's sports
Okay, yeah.
uh, and gender, like acknowledging the biological reality that there's only male and female. There's only those two. It's a clear biological reality. The government should recognize that and then should ban men from competing in women's sports. And then finally, immigration. I would definitely have some executive orders on immigration, restricting immigration, but also, well, it's restricting illegal immigration and enforcing that. But also, I do think it's important for immigrants to assimilate into our culture. I think
Hmm.
not only is that best for the culture, it's actually best for the immigrant too. So, probably something around that as well.
Definitely. I mean, I think those are very interesting points you brought up. I would say, obviously, I don't think I'd ever become a president. I think for me, I think the one of the biggest issues that I find is school shooters. I would try to my best to figure out
Mm,
a way to prevent that. I don't know how, but I would love to try to prevent the rates of that
yeah,
because, gosh, where America is a land of freedom, but also a land of school shooters. Like it's everywhere,
yeah,
and I just don't like that. And I think it's awful. I think it's one thing that I think is not looked upon enough. So that's one
yeah.
thing I'll try to tackle. Um,
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I actually well, I'm conservative, so I don't think the answer is less guns. I think the answer is actually more guns, right? Um and I think people are probably a little more rational than people think they are. And so if if people know that there is going to be guns at the school ready to defend the school, that is going to be a deterrent from people shooting schools, right? And
mhm.
so, security guards, I think allowing teachers to have guns, not forcing teachers, right? But I'm sure there's plenty of teachers that um, would be willing to step up and have a concealed carry on campus, right? I think those things and then making that public national knowledge so that people know, hey, if I'm going to go shoot up a school, there are going to be people that are going to fight back. And
Right.
people want to live. It's our most basic survival instinct. And if you set up, things that are going to threaten their life, they're not gonna do those things. At least, on a whole. Obviously, evil exists. It will always exist. There will be bad people that will do bad things. Um, the question is, how do we try to lower that? And I think that's part of the steps of doing that.
That's a very interesting point. Um, I think I think if I were listening to this video, one thing I would think of is kindergartners, like them knowing that
Mm,
there's in every room they could go to, there's one person with a concealed firearm. That
mm,
to me would be something to think about because obviously it's safety, but there's also a level of you're a kid and it's hard to think about that. Like wow, they have a gun right in front of me. What are your thoughts about that? You know what I'm
well,
saying?
I mean, that's where it's like, okay, like kids know that like cops have guns, right? And so like, does that negatively affect the kid's mental health? I don't think so.
No.
Now that's why it's the security guards. Maybe they can have an open weapon. That's why I'm more in favor of teachers having concealed carry.
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
So that the kids don't know, right?
Yes.
But making it national news helps the people that would shoot up
Right.
know that there are guns there. Not necessarily like, hey, let's release like all the teachers that have guns, let's put their names out there. I'm not saying that. But like put it out there that there are teachers with guns, there are security guards with guns that are gonna fight back.
Okay, yeah, you know what? I would definitely
sense.
say that's something more agreeable. So I want to ask you,
Yeah.
what do you believe is more influential, the politician or their followers?
Oh, interesting. I mean, strength with numbers, right? So I think it's kind of a balance there. Because like obviously the followers in one sense have more power because they're more people, right, than just the one politician. But in another sense, the politician has a lot of power because if the people follow what they say, then they can, like control the masses in one sense, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of a balance. I think it's pretty equal. And I think that's probably how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I love our form of government. It's a republic, and it actually values both. It values both the power of the influencer and the power of the people. The influencer literally has power to implement things in government, but the people have power to vote that person out, and to put someone else in that agrees with more of what they want for their community, their country. That's why I love a republic. I think it's a great form of government, because a dictator puts too much power on one individual. A pure democracy puts way too much power on the mob. And so republic's right in between there, which is great.
Who is the most overrated and underrated political influencer out there?
Ooh, let's see. The most overrated political influencer. Gosh, that's tough. I mean, I kind of want to say Destiny's pretty overrated. I think Destiny's pretty overrated. Let's see. An underrated political influencer.
And it can be somebody you know personally, somebody who's a bit more low key, somebody they think should get much more public exposure for what they believe in and their power to believe in it and their views.
Yeah. It's a good. Oh, okay. On the conservative side, I think Steven Crowder's completely overrated. I really
His videos
don't like
are so
Steven
funny
Crowder.
though.
I think he's pretty funny. I think he's completely overrated though, as far
Steven
as like
Crowder?
his political opinions.
I've been hearing that he might be on a 20v1. Like that's what
Steven
I've been,
Crowder?
Yeah.
Real? Yeah,
That makes
would
sense
be.
because he's huge.
Yeah. To be honest, ever since his whole thing with the Daily Wire, I've just kind of not followed him. So I just don't really follow that guy. I don't know what's up with him. Underrated. That's a really great question. Who do I think is underrated? Okay, someone I think that is currently underrated, who I don't think always was, but who is now currently underrated, is Dennis Prager.
Okay.
I love Dennis Prager. He's really smart. A lot of people are familiar with PragerU, but they aren't familiar with Dennis Prager himself and like his actual opinions. I think he's really currently underrated in a lot of things. Let's see. I'm trying to think of like a really small creator though.
I'm trying to think of one too. It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. I don't know. Someone that just came to mind from like a Jubilee video that I met was Chandler Crump.
Oh, I've seen a lot of his videos.
I like Chandler. I think he's a really smart dude. I think he's really articulate. I like a lot of the things that he says. He's probably a little more to the right than I am. But overall, I think he's great.
Those are good people you brought
Yeah.
up there. I think that's a very good
Yeah.
question to ask though, because I think ultimately speaking, someone's gonna pop up. Because like honestly, no one heard of Dean Parker like at the scale they are now, literally over 8 months ago,
For sure.
and now they're like probably the biggest talk of upcoming politicians. Like
For
not
sure.
kidding at all. Like mainly Dean.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now I just want to talk about some advice for the upcoming Jubilee video.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for handling debates in the setting?
Yeah, great question. So as far as like handling the debate, the key to handling it is to just remain calm,
Okay.
be calm. Don't get emotional, don't get upset. It's just not a good look. Um, I don't think it's really ever a good look to get emotional. Even though your camp may cheer you on, right? If you're emotional, if you get upset, they might cheer you on of like, yeah, you're sticking it to them. I don't think anyone else besides like the dedicated people on your side think that. I think they just think you're being emotional and unreasonable. So
Yeah.
staying calm in situations, um, it's cool, being cool and collected is really important. I think what I talked about earlier, the humility aspect, come into the conversation with humility of like, hey, I might not know everything. There's a possibility I'm wrong. Now, I don't think that means you can't be firm. I think people have this mistaken idea of open-mindedness. Of open-mindedness just means that you don't push back on people's points. You never debate them or you don't do anything like that. I don't think that's what open-mindedness means. I think Aristotle put it really well. He said the mark of an educated man is to be able to entertain an idea without accepting it. That's what I think is helpful in these conversations. Entertain the idea without accepting it. Be able to say, "Hey, okay, that's an interesting idea. What about this though? What about this? What about that?" And having humility in all of that is helpful.
Thank you so much for that advice. I appreciate that. I was gonna
Yeah.
ask you as well. Is there anything you had wished you had done differently in your previous debates?
Ooh, that's a really great question. In my Dean debate, I did misunderstand one of Dean's arguments. Um, and I told him this actually on one of his live streams. One, I think he was personally, I think he was talking a little too fast. But two, I think it was kind of a word salad, which made it harder to understand. But thinking back on it and then thinking about it in terms that I could more easily understand, which in philosophy is called necessary and sufficient conditions. I understand now he was saying that he thinks humans have to have all he has it's very complicated. I actually won't explain it, but I misunderstood it. I wish I would have understood it because I think there's good arguments against that. Um, that's what I think. Something I wish I would have changed. With Destiny, I think I wish I would have been a little more prepared because there's one claim that I went up for where he talked about MAGA. Basically, MAGA wouldn't exist without disinformation.
I think I seen a clip of you saying the legitimacy. What how you say that word?
Legitimacy.
The
Yeah.
legitimacy of that statement, and I saw a lot of people
Yeah.
hating on you for what you said, and I was like, I mean, he's just tackling the statement. That's the statement. The statement is a statement. Why make the statement then? Yeah.
Right. 100%. And like, I was ready philosophically to get into it.
Yeah.
I think he understood where I was going to go and he didn't want to defend it. And so he just kind of gave up. So I wish I was a little more prepared for him to give up so easily because I honestly, I really wasn't. I really thought I was going to have to argue the point. And so then afterwards, you might be able to tell a little bit like I was like, okay, where do I take the conversation now? So I wish I would have been a little more prepared in that. But yeah, I think those are two of the things that
Yeah.
I would probably change if I could go back.
Okay, definitely. Yeah, I mean, those make sense. Those are pretty funny points,
Yeah.
actually. This is a bit more off
Yeah.
topic, but these are general statements, and I want to see your point because
Mhm.
being an economic influencer, I think about this a lot, and I believe that college is a scam in the sense of how it's propelled to the average civilian. I know Charlie Kirk is very well known for having that public opinion as well. I have not read
Mhm.
his book, but from experience myself, I can attest that I don't believe that college is giving the world and the U.S. especially what it needs. I believe that college is just
Yeah.
very overrated. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think I would agree. Obviously, I'm not gonna say as like 100% all college is a scam. Um, there's obviously legitimate professions where you need to go to college.
Right.
Right, like we need lawyers and doctors to get educated.
Yeah,
Like
please.
please, they need to be educated. Um, but that's not most people. And so if we're
Right.
talking about most people, yeah, I think it is somewhat of a scam. And part of what goes into like whether something is a scam or not is its price too. It's not just necessarily quality, right? Because if you buy like a $5 online course on YouTube and it's like it's really not worth it, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a scam because it's $5. It's like you're getting what you paid for a little bit, right? Um with college, I think part of the reason it's a scam is because of how freaking expensive it is. Um, if it was cheaper, it would probably be less of a scam, in my opinion, because you're getting more of what you paid for. But to pay like literally tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
for this education in gender studies or something like that. No, I know not all
Yeah. Yeah.
majors are like that, but even like some of these majors, you're not getting like a really good education. It's just ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
how much you pay for some of these things is just ridiculous.
One thing I wanted to say was like I go to Cornell for college. It is so
Okay,
difficult.
nice.
And when I did crypto, when I started my own platform to try to build your own personal brand, like you are,
Yeah,
you're building your own personal brand. It's
yeah,
separate from politics. You're trying to build your own personality too.
yeah.
I had made more money in crypto, self entrepreneurship, learning how to make my own money, and none of that was taught in college. And my
Mm.
sister, she went to college and she's like in debt $100,000, and I made more than her in like a few months that she has in her whole career. Now that to
Oh
me
wow.
is telling you like there's like college. It's not the same because not everybody's gonna have like as much of luck as I did or as much blessings as I have because
Yeah, for
I've been
sure.
very grateful for what I've been given, but it's also like for you to go to college for 6 years to be she wants to be a chiropractor, by the way, and get
Okay.
hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and I
Yeah,
don't know how much they make per year, but like that's just crazy. It's like I think
yeah,
college is not. I think certain lessons you learn in college is good, like discipline, but the other lessons, like you have to work on your own, or you have
yeah,
to, or there's only one right answer. A lot of that passes on ideologies that I disagree with, and which is why I feel like you're paying money to be told an ideology that I feel like if you go completely against, you will succeed much more in life. That's how I look at it.
yeah, yeah. No, 100%, 100%. And yeah, I think the other thing that college can kind of rob people of is experience,
Hmm.
right? And um, I didn't go to college. I actually did one semester of college and then dropped out because I was able to make it as a freelancer. Um, but a lot of my friends who are going to college, they're just now entering into the workforce and they're having trouble finding a job because a lot of jobs want experience. And I've known some friends that have come to me and have said, man, I kind of regret going. I wish I would have just gotten involved in a specific industry and started to get experience so that now I could be in a better career position. And so I think that's another aspect that a lot of people don't realize too, is the experience. That college, yeah, it gives you an education, but it doesn't necessarily give you experience.
I love that point. Again, we're on
Yeah.
the off topic side of this. What is your favorite movie?
Oh gosh, that's so tough. I'm a big movie guy. I love
Same.
movies. Actually, back here is a film camera. Right
Oh wow,
there
yeah,
is
yeah.
A Lego film camera.
Wait, did you
Love
build that in a
movies.
video a while ago? You built something Lego. I know you did.
Yeah, I did. I did. It wasn't that, but
Oh,
it was something else, I think. Even right here is like let's see, is right there by the lamp.
yeah.
Is the Star Wars is a Star Wars film strip. I love films. So it's really tough. I would say
Well, I'd say my favorite movie is Oppenheimer. I
oh,
will.
Oppenheimer.
That's it.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking along your lines. Christopher Nolan's my favorite
He's a
director.
great director.
He's by far the best director out there right now. And he creates really thoughtful movies, which is I really appreciate. And I think art should be thoughtful. I don't think it should be mindless. I think it should encourage you to think. And so one that does that really well, I would say like I'll just give some movies that are in my top 10 because it's too hard to choose one. But Interstellar would be up there. Inception would be up there. The Dark Knight would be up there. I think Lord of the Rings has to be up there as well. It's too good.
I've never
I
watched Lord of the
love.
Rings.
Oh gosh,
I'm a
okay,
big
dude,
movie guy.
it's so good.
It's too
It
many
is
movies.
so good. No, it's not. No, it's not. And that's someone would only say that if they haven't watched it.
Really?
Yeah, literally, dude, this is what you need to do. You just need to have a day off,
Yeah.
complete day off, turn off social media, turn off notifications, sit down and watch all three of the extended versions of Lord of the Rings.
That's
And
crazy.
your mind will be blown, dude. I'm telling you, it's so good.
Planet of the Apes is one of my favorite movie series of all time. Have you watched it?
Yeah, like the new ones
Uh,
or the
the
older
one made
ones?
by what's his name? The one made by the person who directed Batman. The Batman. What's his name?
Oh, I forget. The Batman, like
Yes.
with
Oh, what's his
name?
name?
I totally
I
forget.
forgot. But he made
You're talking
the
about the modern ones.
yes,
The
like
modern ones, like
the
with the
previous
CGI
four,
and
the
stuff.
previous four, the one with
Yeah.
Caesar.
Yeah, I thought the first one was pretty good. I thought the second one was decent. I haven't really watched the other ones
That's a
though.
hot take. The second one is like known as the
That
best one.
is
That's a hot take.
the second one is known as the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I it's been a while. They didn't really strike me as like great movies
Yeah.
to like go rewatch, but I would say too there's got to be some Marvel movies in there for me
I
as
love
well.
Marvel so much.
I know. I mean, Endgame, I think was really good. Infinity War was also really good. The first Captain America is excellent. And then Winter Soldier is also really good too.
My
And
favorite
I
Marvel.
love the Spider-Man.
Oh, the Spider-Mans are good. My favorite Marvel movie. I think it has to be between Infinity War and
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for Spider-Man No Way Home. That's such a good one. It's an accumulation of all Spider-Man movies. So it's like
I know.
it's well, I mean,
I know,
obviously
I love that
Spider-Man 2
one.
is obviously great. Like, Spider-Man 2 is probably one of the best movies of all time. But
Yeah.
well, what about DC? Are you a fan of DC?
Yeah, I am a fan of DC. I just think their movies haven't really been
The
good.
movies are. I mean, I heard that aren't they restarting it or something like that? They're restarting.
They're trying. They're trying to figure it out. But
Yeah.
the Batman was really good.
That
I
was
think
incredible.
It was really excellent. I thought that was a really good movie.
I think they just came out with the movie. What was it? Was it Blue Beetle? Have you seen that Blue Beetle?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that.
You haven't seen that? Well, I think they're coming with a new Superman movie. Have you seen the trailer for that?
I did. Yeah, that looked interesting.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I love I love superheroes. I love these movies. I grew up reading comics, watching TV shows, and doing a lot of this stuff. Um, Unfortunately, I feel like and the quality I think of movies as a whole has just kind of gone down recently, and so I every time I see something that's interesting, I hope and pray that it's a good movie
I feel that.
and that it's original or something. But
Yes.
I'm getting let down a lot recently.
I feel that. I
Um,
feel that.
so one series I loved was Daredevil.
Oh, I never saw
Um,
it.
it's really good, and they're releasing new shows, and I'm really hoping this show is good. Uh, I love the cinematography in this. Only critique I have so far of it is that the action scenes were a little too stable. Like they weren't like with the action. They were just like more static, stable shots,
That could be because of the
which I
budget.
didn't really like
The
that
budget might have been too
choice.
low,
But
but I heard that Disney has higher budget, so they might make the action
yeah,
sequences much better.
yeah.
My
So I
favorite
hope they
shows.
do.
Yeah, I hope they do. My favorite superhero, supervillain shows are The Penguin. Have you seen The
Oh, I
Penguin?
haven't seen that
That's
one.
the
I've wanted to though.
that's such good. Have you seen The Flash?
Yes,
The show?
I'm currently slowly working through it, but I'm on
Yeah.
like season 7 right now.
Okay. Past season three, it's lucky kind of whatever. But
Yeah,
the first three
it
seasons
is.
are amazing. Yeah,
The problem is like I've committed so much time to it. I know that's
yeah,
what is that, a fallacy or whatever, but
yeah,
like I've committed so much time to it, like I just
yeah.
kind of want to finish it. And
Speaking of fallacies, we can actually move
yes.
on to the next topic uh, about God. So, what has
Oh,
God done for your life? Because I've seen that you are a devout. What would you define yourself as religion wise?
yeah, I'd say I'm an evangelical Christian. I'm part of the evangelical free denomination.
So, what has God done for your life? And for somebody watching this video, what would you say if they are skeptical about God or they have kind of
Yeah.
walked away from God due to personal issues? What has He done for your
Yeah.
life, and what do you think is a very common argument that you use to try to bring people closer to God?
Yeah. Great question. I think one, what God has done for my life, He's definitely given me a lot of blessings. He's blessed me with a wonderful family, a great family, and great parents that um, taught me the Bible, and not just taught me like what to believe, but also why to believe it. Like, why should I believe in Christianity? Because I think a lot of young people, they grow up just believing what their parents did, and then they hit an older age, whether in high school or college, and they realize that they don't actually have any reasons for why they believe in Christianity, and so they walk away from it. My parents did an excellent job of showing me why we should believe in Christianity, like why it's actually true, as opposed to this is just what we believe. And he's also blessed me with a great marriage and a great wife. I got married in 2023, so I'm very blessed to be married to a beautiful and wonderful woman. Um, so what would I say to someone who's skeptical or is struggling with Christianity? I would say that one, like, you do have to ask yourself, why do you believe in Christianity? And I think the only answer that's going to keep you rooted in Christianity, no matter the highs or the lows that come into your life, is that it's true. It's objectively true. It's true whether you believe in it or not. And specifically, what's true is that God exists and that Jesus rose from the grave and was resurrected. Those two things are philosophically and historically true. And so dive into those arguments, dive into those reasons, actually give a fair shake on these arguments and reasons, and examine stories from both sides, people who have, deconstructed, but examine people who have done the other thing, the other way around. I personally know a good friend, good family friend. His name is J. Warner Wallace. He wrote Cold Case Christianity. And basically, his story is he was an atheist all his life. And his wife, I believe his wife was starting to become Christian, and he wanted to essentially disprove it to her. And he's a cold case homicide detective. So he looked at cases that were cold, that they never finished, and tried to solve them. And he treated Jesus in the Bible in the same way and used the same methods. And when he looked into it, he actually found the evidence convincing and became a Christian himself. So like looking at someone like his story and the reasons why he believes that Christianity is true, I think is important.
That was a beautiful answer. Yeah, personally, I used to be extremely religious. It's something that I think I naturally kind of, with my life becoming more busy in certain areas, haven't been as available for. But it's definitely something that I feel like everybody should at least give a chance to. They already haven't, because ultimately speaking, I think religion is a part of everybody's lives, regardless of where you're from. Regardless if you believe it or not, it's going to affect your life one way or the other, because so there's a lot of arguments out there that should matter, and a lot of people's arguments stem from religion, and I think that's important for everybody to be aware of. Where we're reaching the finish line here. This is a very interesting question to have for you. Name 3 things that a Democrat or a Democratic politician has given a policy, argument, or viewpoint that you can objectively say is better than the right's.
Oh, interesting question. Let's see. So something a Democrat politician has said that's better than what the right has said.
Right.
Is that correct?
Like pretty common views for both sides that you would say, hey, this side is much better, and I could say that as a conservative myself.
I mean, might get a little conservatives might get a little angry at me for this, but I think climate change is something that conservatives should take seriously. I don't agree with this like fear mongering of like, and then using that as justification to, enact all these governmental policies and stuff. But I do think the science is pretty clear on this. And so I'm not in favor for heavy government intervention or anything like that. I think actually the free market will kind of work itself out with this stuff. But I do think we need to take it more seriously on the right, for sure. That's definitely something. I think a lot of the times Republicans can come off, and I guess this isn't necessarily like a policy point, but more of a rhetoric point of like Democrats come off as really caring for different hurting groups or minorities and things like that. And sometimes Republicans can come off as kind of like cold-hearted towards these people. That's not like just traditionally, I don't think that's what conservatives and Republicans are. We do care about people. We just disagree on who should be taking care of those people. And so emphasizing like, hey, government should not be the ones fully in charge of taking care of people in different situations. But hey, that doesn't mean these people should be left on the streets or just be abandoned. No, family needs to intervene. The church needs to intervene. Nonprofits need to intervene, and pushing more of the positives instead of the negatives, I think is something that Republicans can do a much better job on.
That's a very interesting point there, and I think the last question I have for you is what's one piece of advice you would give to someone trying to make content on politics, but is afraid to show the political views online, knowing their personal friends or family may see it?
Yeah, I would say, uh, for me at least too, and I get it, it's hard, and I've talked to a friend who I think should make more political content. I think he's really smart, but he's scared for those reasons. And what I've told him is, in my opinion, listen, if a friend is going to not be your friend, or if a family member is gonna disown you or something because you disagree politically, like disagree on like economic policy or something like that, are they really worth having as a friend? Like seriously, if they're going for that reason, right? Now you know, there's different people that, okay, maybe you don't be friends with them, not just because you disagree on policy, but because the way they talk about it is very demeaning and rude, right? But that's a different reason. That's not politics. If their reason is politics, they're not worth having friendship with. And so, speak your mind, be bold. Things don't happen and change unless you are bold. And there's a famous quote, I forgot exactly who said it, but maybe it was Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Was it him? I'm not 100% sure, but basically the quote is all that it takes for evil to basically succeed is for good men to do nothing, right? And so in politics, we need people speaking their minds. That's the only way we make progress politically. And if we want to stop evil, you've got to be bold and you've got to talk about your opinions and why you believe that's the case. And so be courageous. Ultimately, family and friends, if they're going to disown you or unfriend you because of that, it may not be worth being their friend anyways, and that's on them. That's not on you. What you're called to do is to be bold and speak your mind on things.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I appreciate that a lot. And now if we can just finally leave it off on, is there anything you want to say to anybody watching? You can plug whatever you want. I'll leave your link tree in my description of this video. Just any farewell message you have.
Yeah. Well, thanks if you've made it to the end here. Thanks for listening to me just yapping the whole time. But, yeah, you can find my socials in the description. I try to do debates on TikTok, and so I'm gonna try to probably figure out how to stream that to YouTube as well. So I'm wanting to get into more content and involved, but I do try to do debates regularly on TikTok, specifically about abortion and probably in the future about religion and probably about Trump too. So if you disagree with me or if you agree with me and like what I said, go look at my socials. And go ahead and give you a follow, man.
Thank you so much.
Follow stuff that you're doing. I love what you're doing. I think it's really good and informational. So
I appreciate that a lot. And I'll also leave your email on the bottom of, is that the best way to contact you? If anybody wants to maybe debate you, talk to you.
Yep. That's the best way to do it. I've had some people to reach out because I do debate coaching as well. And so, yeah, I know some people are interested in that. So if you're interested, reach out to my email.
All right, definitely. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, I plan on doing more political debates like this, and not really debates, but just more conversations, more podcasty like things, because I feel like it's more civil. I think the stage of debates are a little bit washy, a little bit rude at the moment. But I just think it's more civil, more conversational to have talks like this, more casual, just like two people trying to understand each other and not necessarily push or persuade, but more just understand each other's point of views. Right now, like the state of the world, we're pretty divided. But I do think that no matter if you voted for Trump or you have different point of views of Trump or Kamala, either way, it's the United States of America. It's not the Republican states of America. It's not the blue states. It's not the red states. We're a united nation, and I think we have to start acknowledging each other more as people. And I don't like the fact that we're starting to call each other red, blue. Like, let's just start calling each other, hey, we're people with different opinions, and it's never
we're
right
American.
we're American. We're all American. And I just want to say now is that I think the whole point of this was to go enlightenments on different views, but also I want to personally say that I think crypto is going to be huge one day, and that there's a reason why the media is trying to push it more. And this is just the first steps. These are the people just like me who are trying to spread crypto, because I think it's going to be the next big thing, and nobody knows when things start becoming huge. But I want you guys to go back to this video seeing that this is the start of the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, people need to start conversating with each other, having more civil conversation like this. And if you guys like that, please give both of us a follow. All links in the description, his email, my email, and you guys can check out our content there. And peace out. Thank you guys so much for watching.